Hello and welcome back to the Digital Marketing Podcast. My name is Ciaran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And today we are discussing AI Search and SGE.
Let's start by explaining what on earth SGE is, because we really don't need another three-letter acronym in digital marketing.
Gotta love a three-letter acronym.
You said it so enthusiastically.
I know.
I was slightly overwhelmed.
I don't know what it is.
Well,
I know you're about to explain it.
So, Search Generative Experience.
Oh, why didn't you say?
Well,
no,
it's
still nothing.
It's Google doing a test on bringing generative AI, as in written stuff from an AI, into the Google search result, and it is causing huge levels of conversation in the search optimization world. But we should always point out that the search optimization world doesn't really reflect the reality of what the rest of us care about a lot of the time. And actually, I'm going to say that I think this is a massive storm in a teacup. And I'll explain why in just a moment. But before we get into this, the eagle eye amongst you that are watching this, which means 95% of you won't have noticed this at all, is sitting at the front. There is an award type thing. This is one of the Target Internet Toolkit Awards. So the Toolkit Awards, just a quick reminder, we do the Digital Marketing Toolkit. We decided we wanted to reward those great tools that we all kind of love all the time. So we're opening up the Toolkit Awards. You can nominate a tool, and then later on, we're going to open it up so you can vote for those tools, and then there will be an award ceremony. As of the 23rd of June, nominations are now open, and you can go in at targetinternet.com/awards, and you can go in there and you can nominate your tool, a tool that you use, and so on as well. And then we're going to open up voting a little bit later on. But if you've got a tool, you want it to get it on there, go in and nominate that, and you could get one of these to put in your office and make yourself very, very proud as well. So
very snazzy.
I should say as well, just wanted to point out, when this is the kind of test one that came through, okay, and it came with some gloves, okay?
A pair of white
gloves that I'm holding here, okay? Now, apparently I'm not supposed to handle it unless I've got these white gloves on. And Susanna, our managing director, is taking this very seriously and won't let any of us touch it.
It's because it's such a hot award.
But it is. I
thought she went out and bought the gloves.
No. They came with it. This was the whole thing. So she, like, we go to touch it and she's slapping us and things like that as well. So there'll be an HR tribunal soon, I'm sure. But
in a friendly and non-hurtful.
Exactly. And we don't want any kind of fingerprints. But anyway, I digress. So let's go back. AI search. Generative experience, search generative experience from Google. What's happened is that Google have this thing where they test out different search results. They've always done this. So they'll come up with an idea, they'll kind of theorize about it, and then they'll change the search experience and they'll test it on people. And what's the thing called that you can sign up for? So you can get access to this?
Google Search Labs.
It's Google Search Labs, right? So you can go through Google Search Labs, although if you sign up, you don't necessarily get access.
Well, you don't necessarily even allowed to sign up, Google. Right. People listening from Google, we would like access.
Okay, so you go through, you sign up, and it will start showing you the tests that they're kind of doing. Yeah. And you kind of picked this up for an article that was on Tom's Hardware, which is a website that reviews hardware and looks at processor speed and all that kind of stuff.
And actually a great website.
Yeah, it's a brilliant website.
Really good content.
And the title of their article was Plagiarism Engine. Google's content swiping AI could break the internet. So that was fairly sensationalist.
It's not biased at all, is it?
No. But when you read it, you kind of get a feeling for what they're saying, which is that what was happening, we've had this for a while, right? You search something, and you get the paid search, and then you get Google Maps, then you get questions, and the organic search results have been kind of drifting down the page further and further over a period of time. For the obvious reason that Google wants you to click on ads, and they think this other stuff enhances the experience as well. Quick question to both of you, maybe do it one at a time. Do you ever, Louise, click on the questions that are in Google? And it comes up and it lists questions. Do you click on those?
Yeah.
You do? Do you click on those?
I need to understand what's getting results for people.
So as a research, not to necessarily see the answers.
It's just SEO.
Okay, so you do interest.
I think because, well, in general, people are sort of becoming more and more lazy. So any way that you can get the information summarised.
Right. This is interesting. If you can get the information there in Google without having need to leave Google, and it's summarised there for me. Okay, so this is where this article is getting kind of annoyed. So what they've done is they've gone through and added this section at the top. Well, we've put the link in. You can see it on the Google blog. They basically put this extra section in, and if you say, what's the best process or what's the best bike, whatever it may be, it will come up with a load of results. And it's basically suggesting to you what it thinks the answer is, and then it's telling you some of the websites where it got those answers from. But the point they were making is it was basically showing the text from those websites in the search results. So we're a little bit into the featured snippet thing again here as well, where what we're saying is that actually if I put the answer or whatever it might be into Google itself, is anyone actually then going to go through and click on those websites? Now, I think they do, because the featured snippet, if you were in the featured snippet and they actually put your answer in Google, you were getting 20% more clicks than your average position one. So actually it did. So that wasn't a fear that was ever kind of came true for people. They thought, oh, they're not going to click because of the fact that the answer is actually there. And
because they still link through, because obviously there's a huge difference between SGE and Bard, for example.
Yeah, right.
Whereas Bard's a lot more conversational.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, they'll still link through to your website.
They will link through, but the problem, and I think they're pointing out here, is that it was just plagiarizing stuff on the website, putting it in, and it's the authority of that. Like, if I ask an AI, is something relevant, do I trust it or not? And I don't think I do, because what I want to do is go through, do my research, work out what I think the answers were. They make the point that actually an AI has no authority because the fact that it hasn't actually tested processes, it hasn't tried a recipe, it hasn't. So we're going to these websites to get those answers, and it's just an algorithm that's choosing what shows up.
I mean, I think one interesting thing they argued in the article was that, okay, Google is attributing, like it's not just lifting this and presenting it as itself.
Right.
But then on the same basis, I could take a recently published #1 best-selling book and republish it. And as long as I've said it was written by this person, does that matter? So I take the point. It is interesting. I would counter that with the fact that for a long time, Google have had the no index, instruction that you can give to your robots.txt, and you can assign that to various different pages. And actually, in a way, when you don't no index stuff, you're giving Google permission to index it and effectively do what it does with stuff, aren't you? Aren't you?
You are, but what I would say is that's like saying, well, I published a book. Right, let's first of all.
So I publish a book and I don't put the copyright in, or I
it's still copyright.
Make it. Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point. True. That's kind of my point.
Okay.
But it was more the fact that I can't currently just copy a book and put it online because I can take an excerpt, so fair usage. Mm-hmm. Now, what's happening here is the AI is being trained on your data. So I can opt out of search. Can I opt out of AI training on my website? Not necessarily sure you'd want to. But it's this kind of thing of what authority does that answer have? Now, my feeling is what's going to happen is we'll play around with this and we're going to scroll past it and go to the organic search results, possibly still. But let's just take up the scenarios. We are massively reliant, pretty much all of us, on Google search results or Bing or whatever else. What happens if it fundamentally changes, right? So if search results fundamentally change and you suddenly aren't getting all that traffic that you used to get from Google, what happens to your business?
It's tough though, isn't it?
It is.
That's life.
That's life, right?
It's always been like that.
Yeah.
Stuff changes.
But this is a radical change, right? Now, why did I say at the beginning, I think this is a storm in a teacup? The reason for that is that I kind of feel that if this isn't a great user experience, Google won't take it to the next stage. Because they do stuff, they put it into the tests and they go, people like it, they don't like it. If everyone's saying, oh, this is horrible, it's awful, it won't make it to the next stage.
But in a way, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. They're damned if they don't because people already have been saying, yeah, why bother with a search engine if you've got GPT? You can just get the answers there. And so they're looking at that.
Do you think that's what's pushing it?
Massively. Like, that's a problem, right? If you're Google. So actually, no. Well, actually, great. I would love a search engine that doesn't force me to use lots of other interfaces to get the results that I want. And I think, in terms of, definitely. I mean, Tom's Hardware's article pointed out, definitely gives quite concrete proof that it's definitely lifted text
right.
From the content because the phrases are exactly the same. Like it's verbatim almost, but as we know, the AI can now take anything and rewrite it and repurpose it. So, does that even matter anymore?
Well, the point
I can take any content, any paragraph, and I can rephrase the whole thing, and it looks fresh. And I can even have the system check that it's not plagiarized and written in that format anywhere else. So it's it's complicated.
But they do it already for the frequently asked questions.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, that the frequently asked questions are just links through to people. But at least then you get, here's a paragraph, here's the website it's from,
Yeah.
I guess, right? Whereas this is, here's a load of paragraphs, here's some relevant websites, here's the sources. And when they asked Google about this, Google went, yeah, well, we're corroborating the sources. We're telling you where it's come from. But the point they were making was that, well, it's very easy to corroborate the source if the source is something you've stolen in the first place. Anyway, they got into a big circular argument about it. I mean, what I would say is, one, makes us think about we're reliant on a single channel. Two, the Google search experience is going to change. And I think because the testing Google does, this is not going to go to market as it is at the moment, in my opinion. Because I've looked at it and it's like, it's not great. It's not a particularly great bit of insight. And actually, the more I use ChatGPT and everything, and it's Bard and all these kind of things as well, is that you're using them, and I use them, and then I'm like, for specific use cases, yes. In most situations, no thanks. What I'm getting isn't as great as I think it maybe should be. And actually, there was a really good point that was made that said, actually, Google stated emphasis on EAT, which is EEAT. So EEAT, which is experience, expertise, authority, and trust. That's the standard which users decide which websites and authors should rank highly in organic search. This doesn't live up to that. So I think, and the point they were making is that they're not actually living up to their own standards through this. But I think that will change. I think they'll get better at doing it.
So increasingly what I'm finding they rely on is lots and lots of users' data.
Right.
And they don't have that yet. Partly because they won't give us access to it, Google. Listening. Hope someone there is listening.
Well, I think they don't.
My email address is on the website, so just get in touch.
The reality is that if they've got 1% or 5% of users, they've got enough people to test it.
Yeah.
And then they'll go through and see how they react to it.
Have they?
So how do they decide who gets access to it?
Well, you go in, you apply, and then I think they probably want a certain number of people in certain locations of a certain user type, and they're trying to get a spread so it's statistically significant from that point of view. And you're just not statistically significant.
Not significant, not part of their target audience. And that's fair enough, Google.
So I think it's on trial until December.
Yeah. So what they're saying, they're going to trial it, and then they're going to start including it in the full search results as well. But what it will look like by then, we don't know. So it could look entirely different. So I'm not terrified of this, because the reality is that this change is going to happen to some extent as well.
They've been dabbling around in this area for a long time. I mean, actually, I've pointed out to lots of people, when you look at what's the title and the description given within the search engine results, very often people go, oh, well, I've written the meta description and it's not using it. And we have a look at it and it's like, yeah, because what you've written is so bad that Google would rather, or too short. Google would rather use what I tend to unfairly phrase actually as a Frankenstein mishmash of like H tags, and it sort of cobbles it together. But actually, that's unfair, because actually what they write is pretty good. And what I've seen them doing is not only just doing one iteration of that, but actually when you monitor a page over time, they try out lots of different variants to work out what gets the clicks. And that's, as a website owner, that's really useful. I've even heard arguments that if you've got kind of an e-commerce store on your category pages, it can sometimes be beneficial to not put a meta description in there, so that the AI just comes up with something and like multivariate tests its own versions to come up with something that works. And there's a number of people out there sort of testing that. I think for that to really work, you need to have a lot of traffic. For smaller stores, that's not going to work. But it is interesting. But my argument is they've been doing it already.
Right. I agree. And then you made a note in the show, the kind of stuff that we have notes for ourselves in front of this is AI relying on user data slows things down. And I think that comes to your point about they need the user data to test this out and the statistical significance of that. But you were talking about this in relation to some of the Search Console stuff. So let's wind it back and talk about that.
Sort of going off at a slight tangent.
Yeah, but I think it does about training data.
It does. And it is interesting. I think it's something everybody should be aware of. So recently for one of my clients, we developed a brand new WordPress using the latest version. And we designed it specifically to hit all of the Search Console core web metrics.
So speed stuff.
Speed and user experience. And we've been testing, the bejeebers out of this website. We're getting really great scores on Google Page Insights. Google give you a score out of 100, and kind of anything over like 90 is like really, really good. And we've been getting like 92s and 96s. It'd be very exciting. It's very exciting.
When I tell you what, just on that note, how sad it is. We rebuilt Target Internet and it got 100, and I just sat there and I was like telling people, like, everyone's going, Yeah, great. Well done. Yeah, congratulations.
So we were ecstatic. The interesting part of the story, we then, when we put it live, we also then had to put in all the tags from Tag Manager, and it dropped 6 points. Like, no, it's because you've got all that tracking code, and it does like things like that.
What amazes me, I go into ours and we've got a few things that come out first. What's slowing our website down? Yeah. There's a bit of HubSpot JavaScript. Yeah. Where they are addressing it, there's a lot that's going on. Yeah. So,
biggest thing that dragged it down, the cookies permission system.
Right.
They're big.
That's it, right? But then after that, it was Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics. Yeah. So it's like, wait a minute, this seems a little bit unfair, but anyway.
So what we found was when we had the website live and we ran Google Search Console, it's going, yeah, you've got massive problems on core web metrics on all of your pages. I'm like, no, we haven't. And it's like, yeah, you've got largest contentful paint and cumulative layout shift. I'm like, well, we've tested these in page speed, your own tool, and it says we haven't. What's going on here? And actually what you realize is within Search Console, you can ask it, okay, reevaluate this page, please. Right. And then it pulls up a message that says, yeah, wait 28 days. I'm like,
this is sampling data.
This is using average user data, not the actual page. So actually, when you launch new content, it might take up to a month before you get the benefit of that. So that was one thing. But then the other thing we got clobbered with, for this particular client, we've been getting some fantastic results from some of the automated bidding systems that we use within AdWords.
So the Performance Max.
Performance Max, yeah, which is really good. Which is kind of, if you've not come across it before, it's kind of like full funnel, AI generated approach to your advertising. So it'll take you as a user, Louise, and work out what to show you in display and when to show adverts to you at search. And it's all very tailored towards you and the signals you as a user have been giving. So they've been getting great results from that. We launched the new website, and suddenly that all of those campaigns just kind of went into spasm, and it's like, ooh, massive new variable. You've got like different landing pages and different website, and it's all changed. And it went back into
AI has to learn it.
Yeah, it kind of went back into what I can only describe as learning mode. So our impression share went from like 85% down to like 30.
Right.
And I was like, it'll be fine. Just give it a few days. It'll settle down. We waited a week. Nothing. And at this point, the big cheeses that are coming are beginning to jump up and down, going, really, are you sure? It's like, well, we will reach out to Google. So we reached out to Google Rep. So is there anything you can do about this? And we're like, nope, nothing we can do. You're just going to have to wait. And we're like, well, how long do we need to wait? And we're like, up to 14 days. It's like, oh, that's harsh. That's harsh, but that's the reality. So
again, relying on a single channel business, it's a challenge.
Right? It's not something that I'd come across before. I wasn't particularly aware of it. It's Performance Max is all quite new, but I thought it's well worth sharing with everybody. Actually.
Yeah, it is. And also be aware of Performance Max because it's running YouTube ads, display ads, paid search ads, network, app. It's running loads of different types of ads.
Oh, it can be.
Yeah. Well, it might not be.
If you choose.
But what's fascinating is that you then go through and you look at your results in your analytics, and it doesn't tell you which one worked. It just tells you that it worked. So, because otherwise, what would happen? You could reverse engineer back and go, well, I'll just spend all my budget there then. So the way they're showing it up in analytics, it doesn't show up as the individual channel. It shows up as these kind of multi-channel.
Was this where it was coming up as cross-network?
Cross-network, that's exactly it.
And in a way, I'm okay with this now. And I wasn't initially. I didn't like it, but I'm okay with it now because actually I recognise, look, it's making millions of decisions on like hundreds of different data points for hundreds of thousands of different people. We just wouldn't cope with the complexity of it. It just works.
Yeah, in a world where we've got less cookies, we need some other signals.
Yeah, going to need that.
So I think, look, the reality is that AI is becoming fundamentally a part of search and advertising. They are going to roll it into the search results. I don't feel, and I'm going to eat my words in this probably, it's going to be quite as radical as people think it's going to be. I think they'll test it, it'll improve over a period of time. When the AI gets really good at doing this, then yeah, maybe it will change the results, but it should mean that still, if you do the best content and you get all those good user signals and all that kind of stuff, they've still got to put those expertise, experience, authority, and trust scores together in some way. Maybe we'll go for a blip when they roll this out, but I think people will vote with their feet, i.e., if it's a great experience to use it, if not, we're going to scroll past.
The danger with it all is that only the big players win because only the big players have got enough data for the systems to leverage and use. And I think, I hope something's being done to filter in some filters because there should always be like a wild card. You should always give smaller content providers an opportunity to shine. Now, I've no knowledge that they don't. And actually, from my experience, Google's constantly playing around with, there's a lot of experimentation I can see going on because I monitor thousands of keywords for lots of different content. And you'll see a piece of content go from like average position of 99 up to into position 9. And it will stay there for a couple of days and it will disappear back to position 99 again. It's like, what's going on there? It's like, okay, they're taking content that's not ranking, they're throwing it onto the front page to see, actually, if we show this to a good few people, do they click on it? And if it gets more clicks than the previous thing that was there, then it's going to move up. It seems to be kind of constantly adjusting.
Opinion on something actually as well, because I think increasingly there's a barrier to launching new websites. I think this is a real challenge, right? Because we relied so much on things like links, first of all, and then user experience. And things like, if you launch a new website, there's this real chicken and egg situation at the beginning where you're not going to show up in the search engine because you haven't got the links, you haven't got the user experience.
To go off.
Yeah, that's it. So actually, you've then got to go and do some PR. You've got to generate some noise elsewhere. Then suddenly it's creating the signals from that point of view as well. So I still think very much with this, there is a place for, let's stop thinking about Google. Let's think about target audience, but let's also think about how can we make some noise in the market? How can we do something exceptional? And we were going through this the other day. We had a session literally a couple of days ago. And we were going, right, we need to do some bottom of the funnel content. And I looked at people that want to rank for best digital marketing courses, best online digital marketing courses, which is something that we'd love to rank number 1 for. We don't. And what was really interesting was that there was loads of top 10 best digital marketing courses. And there's like 5 of these entries and it's all people going, number 1, Google, number 2, us. Fancy that. And it was, I just read it and was like, oh, we could do this. And I know I could get it to page 1, but I really don't want to do that. I just don't feel that fits in with our brand at all. So we then went off and said, actually, we're already ranking. We're just on page 2 or 3. Let's just do some exceptional stuff that's going to get loads of links, that's going to get loads of user signals now. That will kind of drive us up. So I think it's quite easy to see what other people are doing. Go, how are we going to game it? How are we going to game it? I think with this, you're going to think, how are we going to game it? How are we going to be in there? Yeah, all right. But actually, great content, exceptional stuff. All the same rules apply. Yeah,
it's like you say, it's going back to stop trying to, impress SEO and try and get to the top of Google and just produce good content. And it will happen.
Yeah, and I think this SEO is dead. I mean, I've been saying SEO is dead for how many years? 15 years now? And the reality...
Love it.
Yeah, I do.
You love saying it.
It's because it upsets people. And everyone's like, oh, it's
controversial.
Does it still?
Oh, it so does.
No, it can do, but not when you say it because we're all so used to it.
It's just ignore him kind of thing, maybe. But it's still, I'll say something about the fact that you don't need to... The more complex SEO gets, the less you need to worry about it.
Yeah.
And people, mainly in the SEO industry, quite clearly are quite upset by it. Exactly. Yeah. My point is still, if we've now got machine learning doing this stuff, the machine learning is trained on something, and if its user experience is a big part of that, just do stuff that's great. So I don't want to go, just do great content, because it's a very throwaway mark, and I've been picked up on it before, but it's true, kind of there.
It is true, because that's what Google is trained on. That's what all social algorithms are trained on. Like, do stuff that the audience is going to go, wow, that's amazing. And until bots and AI has got bank accounts and can purchase things, that's how it works. End of.
That's it. That's exactly it. So take a look at the show notes, targetinternet.com/podcast. But don't forget, if you've got a tool that you love or a tool that you've launched and you run yourself, you want to promote it, we've got the Toolkit Awards coming up, targetinternet.com/awards, and you can nominate your awards. Thank you very much for listening to the Digital Marketing Podcast.
Please subscribe for more videos like this and visit targetinternet.com for more free digital marketing resources.